If you're saying this, that means I am dead. Jake Sully has killed me, which means they have taken my brain data and put it into you, a giant blue freak.
Gentlemen, welcome back to Bureau Files. We're going over how I, a blue freak, would obliterate the blue freaks again. Avatar 2, The Way of Water, Agua Fria, baby. If Avatar 1 wasn't enough to wet your palate, then Avatar 2 is there for you. This movie spawned one of my favorite memes, the Avatar Chud meme. The Turbo Moto avatars and all their military kit looking like JROTC kids at your local high school. Hey, you better stand at attention, I'm talking to you, son. Unironically, I do actually wear Oakleys every once in a while. I find them to be exquisite sporting sunglasses, and they have a really command presence look. Imagine me going up on a traffic stop. Hey, my body camera's off now. Avatar, The Way of Water, hitting theaters in 2022 would bring the infamous traitor, Jake Sully, back to screen. The fellow that betrayed humanity all over some tall cat girl tail, literally, and for chances to ride around on a dragon. As understandable as that betrayal is, because not gonna lie, that all sounds pretty sick. We talked about it in the first video. Humanity comes first. No Xeno scum will stand in the way of humanity's progression throughout the stars. Now, where we last left off. In the first episode, I talked about how I would improve the general plan of the low-flying bombing raid that the humans went with. I know that the rocks were some kind of interference, but we could probably work around those rocks to some regard, as well as some other advanced methods of fighting the tall blue freaks to get to the unobtainium that we want ever so badly. If we can grow these blue freaks in tubes, I guarantee you we can come up with some sort of virus that would absolutely wipe them out. I'm not a monster. Now, funny enough, the first Avatar video was not popular to certain folks. They thought the idea of conquering the blue freaks seemed a little bit too heinous. These folks are often in tune with their emotions. They're a little bit more sensitive. They don't understand what it takes to conquer the stars. The video is also based on a massive amount of fiction. These folks got pretty butthurt, so I know that the video was a good one. I even saw it pop up on some vile subreddits talking about how I was promoting the idea of genotype. Can you guys believe that? I would never condone gerund. I believe that murdering your fellow man in cold blood is evil, and I think it's even more heinous to murder massive amounts of people in cold blood. Now, what they have confused for genome is actually called xenocide. Xenocide, a definition. A xenocide refers to the killing or attempted killing of an entire alien species. Xenocide, can you use it in a sentence, please? I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say them all. Xenocide, xenocide. That is correct. Now, if you get mad at a fictional plan to take out the Na'vi from a made-up movie, I don't know what to do for you.
It's a movie. You gotta grow up.
In the Avatar lore, the Earth is overcrowded. The movie takes place in 2154. In the second movie, we fast forward just a little bit. It gets us to the year 2168. I'm taking this jacket off. In the Avatar universe, 14 years have passed since the first movie. And in real life, 13 years have passed since the Avatar movie came out between the first and the second one. I thought it was kind of fun. Now, if we apply the rules of our world to Avatar, 14 years is a lot for technology to advance. It seems since the mid-20th century, humanity has hit the warp drive on technological progression, and like every 10 years, like even now, feels like a massive jump in the technology that we have. 10 years ago, by the time this video comes out, it's gonna be 2025. 10 years ago was 2015. Think of all the stuff you didn't have in 2015 as opposed to what we have now. The rectangle of dread that you have in your pocket only gets better and better, stealing all of your data, becoming more technologically smart, and we are getting ever so close to the AI-human wars. At the time of this video, 14 years ago, is 2011. You know what my life looked like in 2011? I was good at Call of Duty back then. Now I'm getting slide canceled into oblivion by a bunch of kids that were my age when I was melting dudes getting off their 9 to 5. Think about warfare. 14 years ago, sure there were drones flying around, but they weren't the threat that they are today, how they've kind of changed the modern landscape where a small little FPV drone that's maybe $1,000 can now take out a main battle tank that's worth millions. So in the second movie, humanity shows back up after Jake Sully started his family and had been chilling with the Na'vi enjoying life. He had a nice little window of paradise. He was enjoying his time. raising a family, doing what a father does. And I respect him for that. He seemed like a nice, responsible young man, or young Na'vi now, raising a family. Hey, he's a good dude in that regard. I like him for that. But we still have to conquer the stars. So humanity shows back up 14 years later, well prepared. This time they show up en masse. And as they land on the planet, they leave a massive wake of destruction, clearing the area for what is to come. I guarantee you, the value of Pandora is not lost on the human race. Though there was that setback in the first movie where most of them had to leave, I guarantee you they got back. They said, wait, what happened? Okay. And all hands on deck were to create multiple starships capable of traveling the universe to get back to Pandora to get those natural resources that were vital to humanity's progression. Now let's get into some logistics. Pandora is a habitable moon outside of a massive gas giant. It is 4.37 light years away. It takes a human 6 years to get there, which means the humans were traveling at approximately 4.282 trillion miles per hour, or 135,730 miles per second. That's about 72.8% the speed of light. I just threw some numbers at you. Hope you're paying attention. In the film, Pandora is depicted as being located in the Alpha Centauri A system, rotating the gas giant Polyphemus. Polyphemus it is. It's unclear in the lore and of the research that I conducted if there are going to be other habitable planets that come into the lore of the Avatar universe. Weirdly, I am now invested 2 YouTube videos into the lore of James Cameron's Avatar world, though I want the humans to win, though they're making the humans out to be the bad guys. But nonetheless, about the other inhabitable planets, Pandora stands to benefit humankind greatly. Pandora will provide humanity the vital stepping stones to get even further into the universe and beyond. Now, there is a level of reality
Earth is dying
versus morality that I was thinking about with this kind of topic, where you have space colonization. Now, many folks would look at the movies of Avatar, the conflict on Pandora. And many folks, because they want to feel good about themselves, they want to think that they are the good guy. They want to view what the humans are doing on Pandora as the bad guys, because that is the narrative that is being fed to you. But the free thinkers amongst you know that the humans are in fact the good guys. Clearly, the humans are coming to exploit Pandora's natural resources. In the movies, they of course made the human factions these corpo-greedy sons of guns. They don't care about the Na'vi, they don't have their humanitarian lenses on. They just want to make those shareholder profits as large as possible. And I think that was an opportunity missed. I know that maybe spoon-feeding your audience is a little bit easier than making them truly think about what's going on. I was thinking it could have been more interesting if there was some sort of human figure in a leadership position wrestling with the moral dilemma that, hey, yeah, maybe these Na'vi aren't these bad guys that we have to fight. They're just protecting their home, and he can resonate with that, because what if an outsider came and invaded your home to take your natural resources? You would probably fight back, but he knows that for the greater sake of humanity and his species, he has to fight them to get their natural resources, and he wrestles with that internally and morally. I think that would make for a little bit more of an interesting character as opposed to just some cartoon bad guys. He would be thinking, would I let humanity die and wither because of the mistakes of those that came before me? Or do I make the hard decision now and do what's good for humanity and conquer these blue freaks? Choose your space racism. Now, it's just a thought, right? To give the audience a little bit more complexity to the situation. They're not going to do that because they need like an easy, go Jake Sully, fight against the human, like storyline, because it's like a mainstream movie.
Suffer not the Xeno to live.
On a weird side note, I don't think the humans would actually need to completely wipe out the Na'vi to win. Historically speaking, if we look at the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs, the Spanish conquistadors weren't slaughtering every native they came across. Sure, they carried like germs and pathogens that would eventually be really bad for everybody, but many of the conquistadors leveraged the surrounding tribes that were under the boot of the Aztecs and used them to help conquer the Aztecs themselves, because the Aztecs were just doing so much human sacrifice that was way overboard that all the surrounding tribes were tired of getting all their people sacrificed to a sun god. Can you imagine like the Aztecs' face when they stopped human sacrifice and the sun still comes up? I think eventually the Na'vi would integrate into human society, at least on Pandora, and eventually, of course, the Na'vi would dominate the NBA because they are so freaking tall. It's a natural progression, you guys. Now, through the lens of the movie, what humanity is doing seems wrong. Guys, it's not okay. Can't do that. To defend the humans in the movie, they didn't do anything too morally reprehensible. At least not what like first world nations do today. They didn't create a virus to wipe out the Na'vi. They didn't nuke the Na'vi. They didn't drone strike Na'vi weddings. They didn't false flag the Na'vi. a little too on the nose. For the most part, the humans played the game with the gloves on. These guys aren't as bad as you think. When humans first showed up, they even tried to help the Na'vi. Now, there actually was an incident of a little bit of a war crime. The incident was Sekops massacred a clan and took their kids. And to cover up the massacre, lye was used to cover up the corpses and poison gas was released to stop investigations into the area. Now, this was actually hidden from the RDA, the Resource Development Administration, through fabricated reports. So there was some no-no stuff going on. Humans acting out of line. Now, I don't know how canonical this is to James Cameron's movie, but I was reading this from, I believe, the Avatar wiki. A quick side note from the first episode. Many of you talked about how nukes should have been used, but the RDA had its hands tied with the legality of using weapons of mass destruction on Pandora, because that would jeopardize their sole right to mine the planet, making them possibly trillions of dollars. To counterpoint the legality of their hands being tied, the RDA is a massive, massive corporation. They're like this corporate powerhouse on Earth, kind of replacing certain governments with how powerful they are. So in theory, they could probably get away with whatever they want. That being said, it's probably a bad idea to nuke a planet you want to try and inhabit, like a planet that looks like the Garden of Eden, that just has like weird looking animals. Probably not the best idea to turn it into a nuclear wasteland. I will say one of my fears is like a giant mega corporation taking over Earth, and they like monetize sunsets, so you have to like pay to like watch the sunset ad free. If that ever happens, I will become Ted Kaczynski on trend, but I want my shareholder profits. Now, as far as hyper advanced people making contact with less advanced people goes, I will say the humans were very friendly and forgiving as far as that interaction would typically go. It's what humanity hopes for when people talk about aliens. Like, if aliens show up, they have the technology to wipe us out, but hopefully, they give us the fire to a whole new technological discovery. As far as human history goes, wherever the advanced civilization shows up, it always led to some level of conquering the less advanced civilization. And that less advanced civilization really didn't stand much of a chance. Now, in human history, there were actually some native populations that had some victories, but they had victories in battles, but they didn't necessarily win the wars. And I do appreciate that in the movie, where it kind of shows that, like in the first movie, they win this battle, but generally speaking, they're definitely losing the war because humanity shows up, reestablishes a colony that's even way better, way more defended, has a way better logistical pipeline, and they are just pretty much doing whatever they want. Sure, Jake Sully is kind of like poking the bear a bit, but he's not necessarily winning the war. I think of the Battle of Isanwana, where a technologically inferior foe with more numbers beat the advanced British military. The British military at this time was one of the best militaries in the world, a European colonial power. Though the Zulus won that battle, the British returned in force and resulted in the defeat of the Zulu kingdom, in the eventual annexation of its territory into the British Empire. So though they may have some success using their limited technology in great massive numbers, kind of like how we saw in the first movie, they would ultimately lose the war, and that's how the second movie starts to trend. Now, humanity shows up, more technology, better prepared. Pretty much leveled all the vegetation outside of the city, so that first army that defeated them in the first movie has a 0 chance of defeating or taking on that city in the second movie. Now, that first army was kind of like a volunteer army of all the tribes. They all showed up, realized the threat. Hey, we gotta take out these humans. They do, but then humanity shows back up, and there's no second army that shows up because they probably think the mission is futile and they would all just get killed for no reason. Understandable. So this would lead Jake Sully to fight a guerrilla war, and I think that's a smart move, Jake Sully. Guerrilla warfare is a tried and true tactic when facing a logistically and numerically superior foe. Now, I will say, from the perception, it seemed that Jake's guerrilla war was very inconveniencing to the human settlements on the planet. It was hitting logistical infrastructure and messing things up. Now, Jake Sully would be fighting his guerrilla war for over a year and then encounter his old nemesis. Colonel Quaritch is back, baby! We are so back! We have never been this back! Stephen Lang has got to be one of my favorite actors to watch on the silver screen. His graying warmonger physiognomy fits him very well, and it's one of the genders that I aspire to be. So in the lore, his memory was downloaded onto some data, and then they could take his brain and upload it into a new body. They took that data and put it into the body of an avatar. So now Colonel Quaritch is a thing that he swore to destroy. I think it's an excellent tactic. To destroy your enemy, you must become your enemy. Says so in the scriptures. That is a sharp reference you may have in a Bureau Files video. Now, I like this concept a lot as far as the sci-fi goes. I'm already a fan of sci-fi and all that entails because it's some fun escapism. It does raise some alarming questions, though. Does the OG guy that died get a life insurance payout if his brain gets re-uploaded? What sort of legal paperwork did the PMCs / not Marines that are totally Marines go through to sign off that post-death their brain will be re-uploaded into a different body? Like, I want to know the legality of that. Like, what's the incentives? Like, do you get like a more pay? Like, you just start back off where you're getting paid, or is there like a pay bump? With any of them that were killed and like they were married dudes or married ladies, there's some of the lady Avatar soldiers. If they were married, does that mean they're divorced now? Because the whole like death do us part, because they're like a totally different person. Like, they're not like the same soul. Do they even have souls? Can they do this for humans? Can like they print like a human version of you and upload you kind of like carbon fiber, or like it's a new sleeve? Also, if they can do this to humans, how long have they been cloning humans for? If they can print Avatar people, they surely could print human people, and then you just have a clone army that takes over Pandora. I doubt my questions will get answers, my lords. James Cameron, if you're watching this, please make a better movie. When Stephen Lang comes to as a giant blue freak, he is briefed by his human self that is now dead. The goal was to retain the memories of the saltiest on-world operators. Now, yet again, I find this a fascinating concept. With this technology, when these guys step off to go on a mission, is there some sort of way where they can download their memory from prior missions still, so they're always updating that brain data cloud? Is there even a potential of technology existing that is a cloud? So when they are on mission, say they make a misstep or a mistake or something they shouldn't have done, that information instantly goes to some style of brain cloud that gets to make the next version of themselves learn from that mistake. I wonder if in a weird way it would eliminate the fear of death entirely, because they know that a version of them is going to get uploaded into a new body. And if they fear death, would that make them even make some more mistakes potentially? Hard to say. Thanks to the actions of the terrorist Jake Sully, the recom team of Marine avatars have been activated and sent to hunt him down. They hit Pandora and they find Colonel Quaritch's human son, Spider. Now, Spider's capture compromises the guerrilla outfit of Jake Sully and his tribe. So to keep everyone in the tribe out of trouble, Jake Sully takes his family and hightails it out of there. See what I did there? Jake would then go on to integrate with a Sea People tribe along with his family and learn their ways. He would also learn that the Sea Peoples are a massive lover of the Avatar version of whales. And then in the second movie, we learn that there is a massive Avatar whaling operation going on. The humans want a substance known as Amrita. It pretty much stops human aging completely. These little vials of Amrita are worth $80 million. Now, in the Agent Kruger episode, we briefly covered and played with the concept of what happens when humans live too long, and we're kind of even like weirdly dipping back into the subject of like a weirded, overcrowded Earth. Now people have the potential to live forever. What could possibly go wrong kind of thing? And of course, the chances of this only being used on the hyper-wealthy is extremely high, considering how expensive this Amrita would be. So this Amrita could even potentially throw our natural order well out of orbit. Now, in the second movie, there is clearly some massive efforts to amplify the whaling operations. In some of the scenes, you can see more whaling vessels being created in the factory. So there is a clear drive to get after this stuff as opposed to the unobtainium. And I'm sure there's a bunch of different business ventures going on the planet to make the corporation money. We added plants in the backdrop for being on Pandora, by the way. You're welcome, viewer. I gotta pee. I really do think they wanted to double down on the humanity bad narrative by showing them hunting down whales in the second movie, because it's like everyone loves whales and they're like, what would whales do to you? Now, I gotta be completely honest with you. I'm gonna show you my heart a little bit. If you offered me $80 million to harpoon a whale, buddy, call me Captain Ahab, because I'm coming for that big ass whale. Would you like to harpoon this whale or keep making YouTube videos? Give me the harpoon. I'm just kidding. I love making these videos for you guys. I love YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. In all honesty, the whale money would just be dumped into the YouTube channel anyway. I'll just make you guys like a movie or something. I despise these optics, and I still have a hard time trying to feel bad about them for the humans' sake. These whale things aren't even from our planet. You expect me to feel bad about alien whale things when I could potentially live forever and make millions and millions of dollars? Now, of course, through the progression of the movie, we would get to another cinematic battle. This one was actually a little bit underwhelming, though, compared to the first one, where it was a bunch of tribes coming together to stop this big human army. It was just Jake Sully's and his Sea People's friend's tribe taking on like one whaling vessel operation and then Colonel Quaritch's band of recoms. A lot less scale of epicness, I would say. Now, all the recoms would get killed in this battle except for Colonel Quaritch, and yet again, I have my question of, do these guys just get re-downloaded and Jake Sully has to fight them all over again? In the battle, Jake Sully would lose his oldest son. Now, I gotta be honest, I think I'm getting soft because I watched that part of the movie where he lost his son. He has like a flashback to him too, and I was like, dang, dude, that one hits me in the I couldn't imagine losing my baby boy. That would hit deep, and I think as a dad, I'm getting soft to that. I may have cried. What are you going to do about it? Now, I know we are pretty deep into the video, and I have given you a massive contextual lore dump to get to the point of yapping, and we have to look at what the Colonel could have done better. Now, his mission was to find and capture or kill Jake Sully. Jake Sully, of course, being the leader of the Guerilla Na'vi force. Now, Colonel Quaritch did succeed of getting Jake Sully out of the area operations of the RDA. He also succeeded in finding Jake Sully, but he didn't kill him. Now, in his efforts to find him, they did lose one whaling vessel, but those kind of things can be replaced. Now, one thing that is going to be hard to explain is a loss of human life that went along with that, when he probably could have requested more backup in the efforts to hunt down Jake Sully. Instead, he kind of went full steam ahead, costing the lives of these guys that weren't necessarily hardcore fighters, wherein he should have maybe waited a little bit longer to get some more reinforcements of guys that were much better orientated toward combat arms role, as opposed to just a whaling operation kind of role. Like the whaling vessel itself too isn't a vehicle that's purposely driven for combat. Like, yeah, it has some defensive measures on it because everything on the planet wants to kill you, but as far as like warfare goes, it's not like a naval warship, unless maybe it's like a modified naval warship in the lore. Now, to be completely honest, hunting down guerrilla fighters is very much out of my scope of skills, as in I have never done it. We can, however, look at examples of our own history. In a way, Colonel Quaritch formed an elite counter-terror unit. With enhanced avatar bodies, they were no longer restricted by breathing masks and can navigate the natural world of Pandora without disturbing it, or Pandora thinking that they themselves are threats to its existence. Colonel Quaritch and his men would then adapt indigenous ways to better track down Jake Sully, gathering information, becoming one with the dragons and riding those around to more easily maneuver without requiring any sort of technology. This would allow him to now move like the enemy, can now think like the enemy, and now he can better hunt the enemy. It's like a Jocko podcast. Good. Now, if I was a colonel, I would definitely think about leveraging as many of the assets that we have possible. He kind of really did just hit the ground gun-ho and said, point me in the right direction and let me off the leash. And I think that works for a guy like Colonel Quaritch. He's a very driven individual. I think that some version of a RDA CIA spook would come in very handy in the services of Colonel Quaritch. Despite what's shown in the movie, I doubt that all the Na'vi tribes are totally at peace with one another. There's got to be some bad blood amongst a clan somewhere. If they can leverage that Na'vi that maybe have bad blood with other clans, exploit a vice that they may have or an interest in resources that they want, they can then use those Na'vi to hunt down Jake Sully as well as the recom. So there could be even more people hunting down Jake Sully around the clock. Now, the RDA could have also waged a propaganda war on Jake Sully. Using the advanced technology that they have in the future, if you can like brain sync with an avatar that's far away, I guarantee you can make up some fake images that look really damning to whatever the Na'vi culture is. Like, there's got to be some sort of sacred ceremony where they like use like their version of an Unreal Engine to make Jake Sully look like he's doing the most unholy of things, that everyone's like, oh, we gotta kill this Jake Sully. Now, I will say the motives for both sides are extremely strong. On one end, we have the Na'vi that are fighting for their homeworld and preserving their way of life. On the other end, we have the human faction, which is still technically fighting for its homeworld, but trying to advance human civilization beyond the stars to get away from a dying planet. Motivation in warfare is extremely important. When I think of other guerrilla wars, it typically seems that the faction that has the highest level of motivation for fighting will in the long term win. They may not inflict the most casualties, they may sustain massive amounts of casualty and lose many battles, but if they have a high motivation, they may carry on. I think of conflicts like Vietnam or conflicts in the Middle East. We invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, one for WMDs that we didn't find, and the other for Osama bin Laden. Once we got him, we were still bogged down there for quite a while, and the only people that seemed to benefit was the military-industrial complex, because the people of Afghanistan didn't even want democracy themselves. And a common saying about war is that it's a racket. It is state-sanctioned pillaging of your neighbor. At least with the invasion of Iraq, we were using WMDs as a guise to secure the prominence of the petrodollar. With Afghanistan, it's kind of like, once you get Osama bin Laden, why are you still there? I want my shareholder profits. What's in Afghanistan besides opium? The CIA wants to know your location. All of that to say that whatever morality, whatever view you have, Pandora is critical to the advancement of humanity. It is truly a noble cause to conquer a planet for the gain of humankind, and I will stand by those words, because it is humanity that was created in the image of God, not those blue freaks. The end. I want my shareholder profits.